you have a big belief in Hashgraph.
Yes.
You see there's a lot to it, and you're clearly very like dedicated to doing something with Hashgraph.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it that you really see yourself doing with Hashgraph?
Personally, I want to not be just observer in this technology, but an active participant.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am, close to 40 years old. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
turned 39. And I've experienced several waves of these revolutionary technologies over my lifetime. You have the rise of the internet of the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I was only, in high school and junior high school at that time. But I saw, how internet has changed everything we lived, how we studied.
Right.
And it was a big change. It's still affecting us today. And in 2007, when I was in my mid-20s, and I saw the second wave, the mobile internet pioneered by the iPhone, and also changed the world as well. But both of these times, I was really just observer, at most a common user of these technologies, and never really a participant. And I felt like, if Hashgraph is the future that I see, that is going to revolutionize the world
Right.
in the ways that internet and the iPhone did.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, it's going to be even more important than
Right.
I think, Hashgraph is probably one of the, if not the most important invention of the 21st century. That if that's the case, then I want to participate in it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be involved, deeply involved, not just an observer from the sidelines. And I want to create apps. I want to be able to solve real life problems with these new technologies. And one of the problems that we talked about is this decentralized exchanges that I see as a huge opportunity in Hashgraph, because we know that in cryptocurrency, at least, there's a huge problem with centralized exchanges. And you see that almost every month.
Right.
A big exchange either get hacked or the founder found dead, with the only private key that
Right.
he holds. And, or some kind of exit scam, where the founders and the key people just ran away with people's Bitcoins and deposits and whatnot. And people feel pain with that. I saw many videos who got, made by people who got scammed by these centralized exchanges. So it's a huge problem.
Right.
But why people still fall for it? Because there's human need to invest in these technologies, to profit from these technologies, and to support their platforms as well.
Right.
But they couldn't do any better because centralized exchanges are all that we have at this moment. So my thinking right now is, why not create a decentralized exchange on Hashgraph? And the reason I say that is because before there was a hurdle for decentralized exchanges, because throughput-wise and security-wise, whether you're talking about Ethereum or Bitcoin or anything, any of these cryptocurrencies, you can't really maintain a robust decentralized exchange on these platforms. Hashgraph is the first, and I believe is the only platform that can realize the potential
Right.
of a robust, usable, secure, economical, safe, decentralized exchange. And it's going to it's going to revolutionize the cryptocurrency space like never before.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's one thing that stood out to me when you first started talking to me about Hashgraph, is you seemed so passionate about it, but I never got a vibe from you that of the kinds of vibe I got from people talking about Bitcoin.
Right.
Or when people would talk to me about Bitcoin, it was always like, hey, we can get involved in this. We're going to make a lot of money.
Right.
We're going to get rich.
Right.
Where I never really got that vibe from you. You never came off as like, hey, this is a good way we can get really wealthy.
Right.
But you almost are going about it as that you see this potential and this being kind of important just for society, just for, a new step in evolution for the internet. It's something that's just good.
Right.
Not good for my wallet.
Right.
Even though it may be, you know what I mean, but that's not your intention
Right.
of why you wanted to really get involved with Hashgraph to begin with.
Yes, yes.
Right?
I mean, the why is really simple. Is that I see a need,
Mm-hmm.
and I see a problem in the space, and I think I can get involved in solving that problem.
Right.
And I think that's the difference between entrepreneurship and small business owner is that entrepreneurs, they're driven by solving problems.
Right.
While small business, they can also consider it as entrepreneurs, but they mainly care about making money. Satisfying the bottom line. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just naturally that's not my passion is. And I think that the journey would be much more fun if you don't really care about the dollars and cents as much along the way, but you care about solving problems and improving people's lives, because those are tangible. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can make $1 million, $1 billion, and whatnot. Yeah, you can probably buy a yacht. So what? What enjoyment you really? I mean, do you really enjoy yourself by sipping a drink on a beach in Caribbean for like 2 years?
Yeah.
I mean, no. I mean, I don't think any rational man will find that as enjoyment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe for like a day or two. Not for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of most people, their goal is to actualize their value. What do you envision your life is going to be?
Right.
And I want to envision myself as to be someone who can solve problems. Who can help other people, or to improve a business process, or to introduce a new way of doing things that's going to generate the most good. And it's just maybe just the way that I am that led me to Hashgraph. But I think another way that Hashgraph can be used is to decentralize power, like we talked before, from these multinational corporations down to individuals like you and I. Like one thing is, for example, the underwriters in business, like the Goldman Sachs and JP Morgans, that actually bring companies to public. All they do is that they securitize the value of a company. Let's say Walmart. Goldman Sachs brings Walmart to public is to securitize the value, the shares of Walmart, and publicly offer it to public investors.
Right.
And with the tokenization of these blockchains, the decentralized technologies, I don't see why can't we just sidestep these conglomerates like Goldman Sachs and just directly, tokenize the value of a company. It could be a small company. It doesn't have to be a conglomerate. I envision that the future, anybody's value or worth can be tokenized. If you have your own small business, you can create your own cryptocurrencies, and you can tokenize that and allow people to invest in you, in your future. And people will invest according to how you communicate your ideas, how well you can advertise yourself in those decentralized platforms like decentralized YouTube, for example. You can actually get your ideas across. And you can use a decentralized GitHub to collaborate in creating the software that needed to run your business. So all these things, I believe, are future opportunities that we can build on platforms such as Hashgraph. But because they're not there yet, it's hard for us to envision. For human beings, it's easy to see something once it's there. But before it gets there, it's hard for us to envision it. But that's where the process comes.
Right.
That's actually where the journey is. And I see myself just in the next at least 10 to 20 years, just going along this journey. I mean, assuming I'm right, of course. If Hashgraph turned out to be, just a fad, just like Bitcoin did, then I probably, I'm going to waste the next 20 years of my life. But I believe in this technology so much that I'm willing to dedicate my life to it.
Now, this is just another question from someone with a really limited knowledge about it, but it's clear to me from what you're explaining that it would serve as a benefit for the little guy. Right. But would it serve just as well for like a Goldman Sachs or something like that?
Absolutely.
Goldman Sachs would find huge potential in this as well, something like Goldman Sachs.
Absolutely. I think just like electricity, back 100 years, it can benefit average guys like you and me, or inventors like Edison, for example. Or it could benefit the trust at that time, the Standard Oil, Ford manufacturing company. The Fortune 500 of 100 years ago,
right.
Of course. But the problem with these big corporations is that because of their size, they could never turn a dime. Even if they see this is the future, they couldn't make the necessary adjustments in the time necessary to take advantage of the new technology. Right. One good example is Blockbuster.
Yes.
Blockbuster, immediately after they saw Netflix, they realized that internet streaming of content was the future. And the CEO actually proposed that to the board of directors, but it got shut down. He got shut down. The reason for that is, I heard is that the director saying that, we have these franchisees that have signed long-term contract with us, so we have to protect their right. Their terms. If we go online, it's going to infringe on their right, and that's not worth it. So they waited too long, and when they finally reacted, tried to to copy what Netflix did, it was too late. And now you don't see Blockbuster anymore.
No, you don't. They're long gone now.
And it's the same thing, I think, with any new technology. The newspaper industry, for example, or the publishing industry, for example, they could have taken advantage of the internet in the early 90s, but they didn't. Kodak, another perfect example. Yes. They invented the digital camera, but they never really embraced it. They never really commit themselves to it, and that's a huge difference. It's the one thing to know something is the right path. It's another thing to commit yourself to that path.
Because I think too it was the kind of inability to really focus in on what people really wanted. Like in the case of like Blockbuster, like one of the things they believed that people really enjoyed getting in their cars and going to Blockbuster and hoping that the movie they wanted was there, when that's not really what they wanted at all.
Yes.
They want to lay in bed and pick up the remote and just turn on exactly what they want.
Right.
Or the same thing, like you just brought up Kodak. People didn't really want at the end of the day to walk in with these rolls of film and then wait, an hour or something or a few days to get their pictures back. They just want it instantly.
Yes.
So I think when a company almost becomes out of touch with what people genuinely really want,
yes,
as opposed to what they think is good for business.
Right, exactly. I think that's the second part. It's what they think is good for business. Many times, it's the executives in companies. They make these decisions based not on what they think is right thing to do, but based on to protect the status quo. We're already generating revenue. We're already making this much money. How can we protect that? And they're willing to go pretty far, including buy out or even squash the new competition in order to do that. One example was Blockbuster. Another reason they failed, was that when they knew that the subscription model they had, like these retail video rental business did not work. But what they failed to do was to eliminate some of the late fees, and the reason for that is, one of the directors said, we generate 12% of our revenue from late fees, so we shouldn't get rid of it.
Right.
But they don't realize that it's a horrible customer experience. Yes. Nobody wants to pay that.
Exactly.
And you actually mentioned you used to have that problem, right? You used to work at a Blockbuster.
I worked at a Blockbuster franchise. So when the corporate part of Blockbuster finally realized, okay, we got to do something about these late fees, it's turning people away, they allowed franchises to keep the late fees if they chose to, which the Blockbuster that I was employed at decided they did not want to participate in the no late fees program.
Right.
And people would come in, they would be angrier than ever because they would be seeing these commercials about Blockbuster saying no more late fees, and they'd be coming in, wanting to rent their DVD, expecting to pay, maybe $3 or $4, and I would be like, oh, sorry, your total's $12.
Yes.
Because you have this, $6-7 late fee.
Right.
and they would just become infuriated, you know, like,
Right.
and then that puts a bad taste in your mouth. You know,
Absolutely.
I don't want to go to Blockbuster anymore. I'll go rent my movie on Netflix, or I'll go to the Red Box.
Right.
You know, where I know I'm not going to get a late fee.
Yes.
You know,
And what's really bad is that, you know, the employees like you were trying to do the right thing, you know, by helping these users to waive some of the late fees, but you got into trouble, right, from your manager. He said that don't overdo it.
I actually lost my job
Right.
at Blockbuster. That being one of the reasons why, because you know, one woman in particular, she had about $100 late fee.
Wow.
You know, because it was her daughter's account. She was a college student. She just took the movie and didn't bring it back for like a month or whatever it was. But you know, once you get past the value of the DVD,
Right.
it's a little obnoxious to be saying, okay, now you owe me $100 because you were late with, you know, analyze this.
Yes.
You know, so I actually eliminated a big chunk of that late fee. I think I still left there with $20 to pay. I think that's a pretty, you know, steep late fee already, paying $20.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in trouble for that. But you know, I didn't feel right about someone, you know, paying $100 for
Right.
a late fee. It didn't seem like the right human thing to do.
Right. And how did your manager react?
Oh yeah, he wasn't very happy about that. Wasn't very happy about it. But you know,
That's a perfect example of you know, the people in the front lines,
Mm-hmm.
namely you, trying to do the right thing, you know, but you can get into trouble for not following orders or following rules,
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, but they don't really see the bigger picture, you know, doing the greater good. You know, they don't see that, oh, this customer will, you know, increase her loyalty to the company by having a better customer experience.
Right.
All they care about, oh, we can get this guy for $100.
Yeah.
Why not? You
yeah,
know?
exactly.
It's a long-term thinking versus short-term thinking. And I see, you know, I think a lot of these companies, especially public companies, that's their problem, is that they focus on the short term, what the next quarter is going to
Yes.
be. Because they have to meet the quarter numbers in order to make the price, the stock price to go up. And that's why the smaller players, you know, a startup or whatnot, they can afford to take a longer term view, and they don't have to, you know, adhere to a certain practice. They can
Right.
change on a dime,
Right.
change direction on a dime, and that gives them this competitive edge when a new technology comes online, you know,
Right.
like Hashgraph. So I envision, you know, in the future, the Goldman Sachs, the JP Morgans, even like many of the governments, many functionalities of a government will be replaced by these decentralized systems like built on Hashgraph. You know, for example, the patent office of a government, you know, that can be eliminated. You know, you could,
Right.
many people will lose jobs, true, but just like every new technology comes up, there are people who will get hurt in the short run. But over the long run, as people get more acclimated of the new technology, they use it more, I think overall life standard will
Right.
increase.
And you shouldn't prevent evolution for keeping, you know, jobs like that. Like,
Right.
I've heard the argument about, you know, them automating, you know, McDonald's, so that people essentially kind of go into like a little computer, like almost like a tablet or something, and then the
Right.
food is ready, as opposed to talking to an employee.
Yes.
And you're saying, oh, well, you know, people are going to lose their job at McDonald's. It's like, well, people shouldn't be aspiring to work at McDonald's. Like,
Right.
you know, if you can work at McDonald's, you can find something else to do.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
You know, you shouldn't be trying to hold on to that job at McDonald's or hold on to that job at the grocery store doing this kind of monotonous thing of
Exactly.
you know, ringing things up. You know, that's not, you know, what you were brought on, you know, this life experience to do is to, you know, take people's, you know, cheeseburger orders.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
So, you know, good riddance for those jobs. That's a job that a robot should be doing.
Exactly.
Not a human being.
Right.
But that's just how I feel about it.
No, I mean I totally agree with you. That's how everybody, I think, you know, everybody feels that way. But many times it's easier to stay at the safe job than make the necessary painful transition, because nobody likes to change. Change
Right.
is painful.
Right.
It's hard. And mostly we change, in most cases, it's because we have to, not because we want to. You know, like
Right.
our job is being, you know, if our job in McDonald's is being replaced by Walmart, I mean by robots, then we gotta change. We gotta change the job.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's so hard because people resist that. It's painful. But once they realize that they just go through that hump, the reward will be enormous.
Right.
And I think that's the same thing with adopting new technologies. In the beginning, it's going to be a trickle. People, it will be like the pioneers, the visionaries, the early adopters. They're going to use Hashgraph. But as more and more people talk about it, and more and more people use it and see how superior it is to the other cryptocurrencies, first of all, and also to the previous, paradigms that we're used to, then you see people, more and more people getting adopted into this technology, and that's when we see, the world will be changed. But who knows when it's going to happen? It took Bitcoin 10 years to make a world-known phenomena. I would say it would take less than 10 years for Hashgraph to get there. So I just hope that I can take advantage of that, be part of that change instead of this time as a outside observer.
Right. Exactly.
And that's basically my motivation in committing myself in Hashgraph.